Greetings again and welcome to Talk Point again on Lagos Television. My name is Omololu Rosowo. On Talk Point today, we'll be looking at Nigeria at 64. In 1960, Nigeria got our independence, but before the name Nigeria came to being, it was derived from the word Niger area by Flora Shaw, the wife of Lord Lugard. And ever since, we've been calling the name Nigeria, Niger area. Niger area is a combination of so many ethnic groups, a combination of so many people coming together to form one entity. Now we have Nigeria. In 1960, 64 years back, how have we done? What has happened? What has not happened? What are the lessons that we can learn from Nigeria? The things that have been in the past, the things that we can learn now, and what we can also use in future. I have a guest in the studio to discuss that with me. He is Olalekan Oni. Lekon, nice to have you on Talk Point.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here once again, sir.
Yes, nice to have you. In just that short introduction, Nigeria from Niger area, Flora Shaw, wife of Lord Lugard. Ever since we've been having that country, Nigeria as one indivisible entity.
Yes.
Now, looking at that, let's look at when you were growing up. You know, obviously, two of us are not yet 64. We're not yet 60.
Yes.
But when you were growing up, what did you get to learn, or what did you get to know when you started being knowledgeable about Nigeria?
Well, one of the things that, let me say, amazes me about Nigeria is our diversity. I grew up where you have people of diverse tongues. When I say diverse tongues, I mean diverse language. I grew up in Osun State, and I saw that where I grew up, we have people, for example, who speaks the Idisa dialect, okay, and then we have people who speaks the Oyo dialect, and you see how you also have people who are of the Muslim religion, who are of the Christian religion, and the other traditional religion. But what I found out was that all of these people coexist together in peace and harmony. Also, I grew up in a tertiary institution environment where people come from different parts of Nigeria to come and study in that particular school. You have people outside Igbo and all of that, and I see how people of diverse language become friends and do things together. And that's one of the things that I respect so much about Nigeria. People, the way people come together, even, intermarriage and, have relationships, have business relationships, have marriages together, do businesses together, go to school together, and do many more things together. And that's one of the things that, has shaping my, upbringing and growing up, my ability to live with people, to transact with people of different background, of different language, and of different origins. That's one of the things that are actually shaping me personally.
Okay, yes. Learning from that, some people will say Nigeria is supposed to have gone further.
Yes.
Than what we have achieved now.
Yes.
Some are even saying, no, it's a gradual process. Yes, certain things must have been achieved, but it's a gradual process, and Rome wasn't built in a day. But in 64 years, if somebody is 64 years old, have we not expected the guy or that person to have known what is wrong from right, know how to do things the right way so that things can get better.
Well, I agree with the school of thought that says that Nigeria ought to have grown beyond this. I strongly agree to that school of thought. You know, at 64, it wasn't that the entity itself, the country itself, the people of Nigeria have actually not been existing before independence. You know, we had a life, the way we were living, the way the country is being run or governed or administered before independence, which we know that it was being governed by the British, you know, the colonials and all of that. So I believe that even after independence, I believe strongly that Nigeria ought to have grown beyond this. In fact, sometimes, this is a personal thought, sometimes I used to feel that probably if you had not gained independence in 1960, and maybe the independence, whatever independence will have been shifted forward, maybe Nigeria will have, you know, experienced some more growth. Sometimes I sit down and think about it, that it is very possible that we would have achieved more, maybe, if that independence has been shifted forward. Because some of the things that still bedevil our growth in Nigeria still baffles me, still wonders me. For example, at 64, we still talk about constant electricity. At 64, we still hear that if you elect me, if you vote for me, I will do roads, I will give you better roads. We still hear about, you know, talk about basic health. We still talk about, and many more basic things that, you know, ought to have been in place in the last 64 years. So you ask yourself, and I ask myself, what have we been doing in the last 64 years? If by now we don't have the basic things that I have mentioned, electricity, you still talk about child mortality, you still talk about basic health. And these are the things we still, you know, Nigeria is still pushing up till the moment. You still want to talk about the government is coming to give you 24 hours constant electricity, where countries that are even lesser than us in economy and what have you have achieved over the years. So I feel that we are not at all even close to where we are supposed to be. That's my thought.
Okay, your postulation is derived from possibly what maybe will happen in some other countries in Africa that got independence probably in the 90s.
Yes.
If we're taking an example of South Africa.
Yes.
And so you're saying that if we had actually gotten independence probably in 1970 or 1980.
Yes. maybe possibility that the colonials, masters will have done some things to a large extent before they left.
Wait, even at that, is it not wise? Since you have all the resources, because I recall that there was a time when Gawan, he was the general, the military, said the problem of Nigeria is not money, but how to spend it. And I recall that those period of the 9 years where he reigned as the military head of state of Nigeria, so many infrastructural facilities came up. Now, looking at that, we still have leadership challenge.
Yes.
Why can't our leaders do what is right so that things can get better?
Well, you know, that's why I said that probably if the whites were still with us, you know, and because we know that our problem is not about resources, it's not about scarce resources, so to speak. It is about the right allocation of resources. You know, also, if you look at how Nigeria has been run, you will see that our problem is actually not about having a good law, for example. It is the enforcement of law. Our problem is not about having a right policy. It is the policy implementation that is our problem, which goes back to, you know, what Gowon said and what you mentioned at the 9 years of when Gowon led us. We had some appreciable, you know, progress and success in the administration of the country. So our problem is about leadership. How have our leaders, you know, allocated our resources? There's this proverb in Yoruba that the son of a meat seller eating the bone. Imagine
eating the meat itself.
It's the meat itself. So we have all of these resources, but which have been badly allocated. And that's why you see all of these things in Nigeria. For example, this just came to my mind. Nigeria has the second largest deposit of bitumen across the world. Bitumen is what is used to process the quota or this surface of the roads that we use. I've forgotten the name now. But we still import these things. What we used to do our roads, the black surface, I've forgotten the name. But we still import from abroad. Why is it so difficult for us to process? Nigeria has crude. That's the one that touches everybody. We have crude. Why can't we refine in Nigeria? So it is the allocation of resources and how best to make these resources work for Nigerians that has bedeviled this country. And that's why, for me, we are not even, I feel that we have gone backward.
Rather than moving forward?
Rather than moving forward. Because, just like you said, I wasn't alive, I wasn't born in 1960. But from what we have read from history, the country, the Niger area, was much more likely to be better than what we have presently, than what we have presently. Those who lived in those years, even after independence, those who lived in those years have made us understood that what was obtainable then, we understand that, exposure is coming and all of this, but what they had then, the standard of living of Niger area people then, was better than what we have presently.
Don't you think that could be as a result of population explosion? Because when Nigeria got our independence, we were less than 50 million.
Also, yes.
About 45, 46 million.
Yes.
And presently we're looking at over 220 million.
People.
Yeah. So, and it's so much. Don't you think that could be another factor?
The question is, do we have the resources to take care of these 220 million people? And the answer is yes. We have these resources. What are we talking about? When we say basic standard of life, the government or leaders needs to provide infrastructure, for example, and make life better, and then, work on the economy, have a good economy and all of that. So we have countries that have much more populated than us. Not in Africa though, but even in other parts of the world. But how are they faring? So, in essence, Nigeria has a high population and Nigeria has all the resources to ensure that every citizen, or generally, the country is better and people in Nigeria live a standard life.
Nigeria got back to democratic rule in 1999.
Yes.
And we've done over 2 decades of democracy.
25 years.
Yes. Now, looking at that, would we say the governance is too high? Because if you look at the kind of legislature we put in place, the kind of bloated executives we have at the national level and at the state level, don't you think that could be another factor? And considering selfishness, which also plays in rather than patriotism?
Well, people have argued about this unicameral legislative that we have, that it has inflated cost of governance.
Bicameral, you mean bicameral?
Sorry, bicameral, that it has increased the cost of governance and all of that. Well, for me, I am actually indifferent. I still want to emphasize on the fact that with the resources, and again, it's for me personally, it's neither here nor there. People have argued that, okay, maybe the money is being paid. Some have said that we should just have the Senate, or some have said we should just have the House of Rep, and one of them should go. Some have said that the money is being used to take care of all of these people can also be plowed back. But we still have other monies. Where are other monies going into? We've had uninterrupted, democratic governance. How has the country fared under these democratically elected governments, from the presidents to the legislators to the state governors to the state house of assembly to the chairman and to the councillors? How have we fared under them? My point still remains that we have the resources. Even if you are going to have this large number of people in government, we still have the resources to ensure that people get a good life, to ensure that infrastructures are in place, to ensure that Nigerians get good education, good hospitals, and what have you. I believe that.
The British practice parliamentarian system of governance,
Yes.
and they spend less money.
Yes.
But we have adopted the presidential system of governance, and
Yes.
that has to do with the lower chamber, upper chamber, that will
State
operate.
Assembly and all of that.
Now, looking at that, even at that, the legislators, the Congress men abroad, the emolument, the income, monthly income is not as high as what we have in Nigeria. Is it not time that we look in that direction to say, look, let's assume that the legislator, or maybe at the Senate, should not, maybe every total package should not be more than maybe 10 million or less in a month?
You see, on this topic, we are in a quagmire, we are in a serious fix. You know why I said so? Who are those that will fix this emolument?
The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission is supposed to fix salaries.
But this
looking
thing,
at the
won't
situation,
it pass through the Act of Parliament?
yeah, it will.
So if you bring whatever bill or whatever suggestion you are bringing to me and say, reduce my salary, we know who we have. And that's why I said we are in a fix. So if this reduction, so to speak, we still pass through the Act of Parliament, do you think that majority of this parliamentarian, we support this? And that's why we're in a fix. I wish sometimes that this can go through an executive order. You know, I wish. I've seen people, recently, some of the rumors is that even the allowances of these parliamentarians have been increased, and some of them goes home with 21 million naira or so.
Unsubstantiated.
Yeah, unsubstantiated. That's what I said. People have said it's rumored. And so at the end of the day, people have blamed the president, that the president knew about this and is not saying anything. The president is handicapped.
How can the president, because you have mentioned it, but there is there is an existing law,
Yes.
fixing the salaries of the legislators.
Yes.
I don't think it is the role of the president.
It is not.
But the executive can also come in and say, look, we
Pursue
can
it.
bring a fiat and say, look,
An executive
these monies are too much. Let's cut down drastically from the executive level to the parliamentarian level, and also to the grassroots, so that things can get better. And that act of patriotism can't
Thank
play
you.
up.
I love that act of patriotism. Like you said, the president can only suggest. The president cannot give an order. The only thing the president can do, which is, in a way, the president has also tried to reduce, cost of governance executive-wise, where he said that if the president is traveling, not more than so number of people can follow the president, which goes to the vice president, which goes to the wife of the president, and so on and so forth. If a minister is traveling, you must not have maybe more than 4 or 5 people who will follow you, and so on and so forth. If you look at, this last hunger, United Nations General Assembly, is it 97th or 98th, that 75th or so, that the vice president just came back yesterday. We saw that he went with a very lean delegates, number of delegates that followed him. So that's one way the president can cut down on this huge and bogus, cost of governance. For the executive, the president, and I expect, and Nigerians also expect that, having seen the president do, engage in something like this, we expect that the legislator also will say that, although they said they did, the House of Representatives did some, I think 2 or 3 months ago, where they said that 50% of their salaries will go to Nigerians till December, and I think that expires in December. But people have said, how much is their salary compared to the allowances?
Are we clear about their basic salary, or
Yes.
we're looking at the net? Because nobody's clear about it.
Nobody's cleared about the net. But their basic salary is around, I think, 500 and something thousand. I can't remember, because one of them came on one of the TV programs where he, displayed the alert of the money received. So somehow, even with the RMAFC, you can also check what they had as basic salary, not the net income for a month. So they said, the House of Rep members said that 50% of their basic salary will go to Nigerians. So I also expect that if they have done that, why not cut down the allowances? Because it is the allowances that is the major money of what they earn, not even this basic salary. Even, government across board, it's the basic salary is always paltry. Even the president and all of it. It is the allowances attached to these offices that are always bogus. So we expect that if the president has taken such steps, we also expect that more steps should be taken by the executive. Then it should also be replicated by the legislator, not on their basic salary, but on their net income.
Okay, yes, in another 30 seconds now, what advice as Nigeria clocks 64, what are your expectations?
Well, we expect that our leaders will do better. We expect that leaders at all levels should be considerate in how, they lead the people. We know where we are in this country presently, and we know that the people expect more from our leaders, and we hope that as we clock 64 tomorrow, there will be an appreciable progress and growth across the country.
Yes, Nigeria is 64. A baby that is 64 by now should be possibly a grandfather. It is expected that everybody will join hands to ensure that Nigeria grows and Nigeria remains the sinosho of all eyes. I want to thank you so much, Lekan Oni, for being part of Talk Point.
Thank you, sir.
767 and 112 are still the lines to always call in time of emergency. Stay out of trouble. Ensure that you do what is right so that Nigeria can get better. I am Omololu Rosan. See you some other time.